You have spoken, they have listened. The Wrestling Realm has been nominated for the Best Duo Podcast, as well as Break It Down with Brian H. has been nominated for the Best Solo Podcast in the Wrestling Podcast Awards. So, make sure you do the second part and go vote for us right now.
No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just going to keep you right where you're at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Realm presents Break It Down with Brian H.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of Break It Down with Brian H. I'm your host, Brian H. Waters. As noted at the intro, the Wrestling Realm has been nominated for the Wrestling Podcast Awards. We're nominating 3 categories. Best Solo Podcast for Break It Down with Brian H. Best Duo Podcast for the show. And, of course, Podcast of the Year. So, the links will be all over the Wrestling Realm channel, so make sure you go vote and show us love so that we can bring home one of those awards. Now, let's get right into episode 38. So, let's start where Raw ended. We saw the Dogs of War finally breaking up, and, you know, that's going to be, just a foreshadow to the end of the show from the Realm segment. The Shark, he talked about that, so I'll definitely get more into some more when I answer his question. But as I said, the Dogs of War breaking up, it's over for them. We saw tonight Roman Reigns kind of play peacemaker throughout the night, as Dean Ambrose didn't come out right away, and in the beginning, as Dolph Ziggler was saying, oh yeah, Ambrose isn't here. Well, Seth Rollins and Roman kind of said, look, we know how Ambrose is. He comes on Ambrose time. And he even asked Renee Young, and she just kind of said, yeah, you know, that's tend to be what he does. And it was one of those things where you really look at it. It's like, you know, she was a wife kind of having to answer for her husband, and she really didn't have the answers. But we saw Drew McIntyre take on Seth Rollins. Winner goes to the World Cup tournament to be held at Crown Jewel. They didn't announce the locations, which, you know, I'm not going to get into that. Just know that there's controversy about the location. But anyway, Seth Rollins and Seth Rollins ended up winning. It looked like when his back was against the wall, here comes Dean Ambrose and to save the day. And, you know, after he won by a count out, they was joking. They was talking about, yeah, man, Ambrose, you know, you man, lunatic friends, you know. And he took offense to that. You can see he's being real sensitive. Didn't like what he heard, and that would lead to him catching an attitude, which later on he would face Dolph Ziggler. And he lost after miscommunications between him and Rollins, which led to them kind of getting into it on the ramp and, you know, some shoving. And as I say, shoving, watching the Monday night game, and Richard Sherman is flagged for illegal contact. But nonetheless, back to wrestling. Ambrose and Rollins had their issues, and Roman came to break it up again. And like I said, playing mediator, and that's when Baron Corbin said, oh, you guys going to, I'm not going to let the Shield break up on my watch. So what did he do? Instead of just saying, look, you guys going to fight it out, he gives us the same match that we've had over and over again. The Shield versus the Dogs of War. And Braun Strowman said, if any of you mess up, you guys are going to get these hands. And guess what? They messed up. And guess what? They got those hands. He beat up Dolph Ziggler. And after he beat up Ziggler after losing, just when he was about to hit the running power slam. And then boom, McIntyre kicks him with the Claymore kick. And one of the things which leaves everybody to question, Drew McIntyre didn't pick up Ziggler and take him with him. He walked off on his own. And McIntyre's not in that tournament. So that makes you wonder, so what's going on with him? You know, I want to see Drew McIntyre in the world title picture. Yeah, he could still be with Dolph Ziggler and still be a part of the world title picture. But nonetheless, that's where he belongs, man. He's that guy, you know. So only time will tell. I believe him and Ziggler are still tag team champions. Yeah, I've been, Raw's tag team division could be so much better. Unfortunately, it's not. Nonetheless, so that's where we are with that. Dogs of War have officially broken up. Dolph Ziggler got those hands, and like I said, hopefully Drew McIntyre moves on to the main event. Now let's go to probably the second biggest story. Definitely one that's gonna make a lot of headlines, and that's Ronda Rousey and Nikki Bella. So, man, a lot of people were talking about, oh yeah, Ronda Rousey, she got her good. I am so sick and tired of hearing about Nikki Bella and John Cena's relationship anytime there is a promo battle. It's over. Who cares? We know that. People keep saying, oh, it was funny back in 2000, what was it, 2015, 2014, when AJ Lee's told her that you can't sexually transmit talent. That was cool. It was cool back then. Everybody knows Nikki and John were together. They broke up. Whether it's a shoot, whether it's a big work that we're all in, nonetheless, who cares? There needs to be some sort of creativity besides talking about their relationship. So it's just annoying, man. Like, you keep talking about Nikki Bella and John Cena's relationship in a promo, and I'm supposed to go, no, dig deeper. And I understand, Rousey's new, but guess what? There's supposed to be a personal beef between them two. She just beat her up, and I understand that can get personal, Even if she would have said something like, well, you're still out looking for a husband, I would have taken that better than saying something about her and John Cena. I know it's sort of similar, but it's just annoying mentioning Brie and Daniel Bryan, basically telling them that they're nothing without their husbands. That's just ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. So I just think it's time to cut that out and just dig deeper, man. Do better. That's all. Do better. I'm going to go ahead and take my first break. Got a word from the Flex Zone.
This is D from the Flex Zone. Check out Break It Down with Brian Waters. Ooh, yeah, dig it. Freak out.
And I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. So, make sure you check out the Flex Zone each and every week. This week, if you're from Baltimore, Maryland, they had Councilman Brandon Scott on the show, who was, he's running for governor with Ben Jealous. So that'd be cool. I think you should check it out. He's a huge sports fan, huge Baltimore sports fan. So it's good to hear him talk. So make sure you subscribe to them on In Between the Zone, as well as on the Flex Zone podcast, the first one on YouTube. Now, let's get back to Monday Night Raw. Before we go there, this Wednesday, or maybe you listen to it, I don't know when this show comes on in your rotation, but WWE announced that NXT UK premieres this Wednesday at 3 p.m. So that's going to be very interesting. I can't wait to see. New tag team titles was revealed, which those things are gorgeous. I just want everybody to take a look at those belts when you get a chance. Those titles look better than the tag team titles they have right now. And I hate to be that guy. I criticize everything, but I've never been a fan of the way the titles look. I like the way they look now, that you have the red version and the blue version, but when they were the pennies, I didn't like them at all. So, but let's move on to Monday Night Raw. Let's just say back to Raw. Lio Rush, man. So tonight, Finn Balor defeated Jinder Mahal, and during his celebration, instead of his music kicking off, it was Bobby Lashley's music, and then here comes Lio Rush with him, hyping him up, making everybody know who Bobby Lashley was. And then as he was doing that, Balor kind of looked at him like, dude, what are you doing? And then Lashley had a squash match against Tyler Breeze, and Lio Rush just kept pumping him up, just making Bobby Lashley pose. I love the way this is going. I would love to see what happens. I wouldn't mind seeing a feud between Finn Balor and Bobby Lashley. To my knowledge, neither one of them are in the tournament at Crown Jewel, so maybe that's a match right there. Or, you could save it maybe after Survivor Series. let's move back to the women. So, man, goodness gracious. Alexa Bliss and Mickey James had came out to address as Lita and Trish were out there. So they was addressing them, and they said, let's do this right now. And somehow or another, it went to a practice conversation. And Trish and Lita fell flat on their face, not literally, figuratively. And they said, we're talking about practice. And they, so if you don't know, Raw was in Philadelphia tonight. And shout out to my brother Corey from Wrestling Marks of Excellence. He was saying, like, I was texting him during the show, and we was in a group chat, and he said, man, the people there was just like, man, okay. And then Corey Graves, man, just goes on to say, and Allen Iverson is rolling over in his grave. And I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, Corey, AI is not dead. And so it was horrible. And it really made Trish and Lita look bad. Two legends, two Hall of Famers. That was definitely not a Hall of Fame moment. I kept talking about practice, and I'm just like, no, like, practice should be left to Allen Iverson. You want to know who has a good practice imitation? Frank Caliendo. But what he did was, when I used to work at the 4-letter ESPN, I worked on Mike and Mike's in the morning for about 7 months. And Frank Caliendo would come on the show, and he would read different things in different voices. And, oh my gosh, I forgot who he did, but he did the practice monologue. I'm not sure if it was like Danny Glover's voice, but it was funny that way. But everybody tries to do it. Like, we're talking, but that was by far the worst, because Trish Stratus obviously didn't sound. She sounded like a person trying to have. Trish Stratus sounded like a person trying to imitate hip hop and absolutely getting it wrong. So hopefully she will never do that again. Hopefully we'll never hear. We're talking about practice, because it was horrible, like horrible. Moving on, Sasha Banks, we saw her come back on Monday Night Raw. She was out with injury. Natalya took on Ruby Riott, whom she defeated, but before the match, she said she had some help, and there was Bayley. And so, what you gonna do? Hug us to death or whatever? And then here comes Sasha. So we saw them all, get into it. Probably, we'll probably see a six women's tag match in a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, that's how it is. So now it's time to get my tapped out this week.
Here's our tapped out segment of the week.
Tapped out this week, man. So we saw Nia Jax and Ember Moon taking on Tamina and Dana Brooke. Ember Moon will get the pin over Dana Brooke, but the tapped out was, they started teasing this thing where Tamina was going against Nia Jax. Tamina looked like she could go toe-to-toe with Nia Jax, especially when she hit the Samoan drop. It was great. I said, oh, man, this is awesome. This is phenomenal. You got the two Samoan women going at it back and forth. Two island women going back and forth. So I could get invested in this feud. You can make it family. You can make it personal. And what do they do to mess it up, other than make it about the battle royal at Women's Evolution? You may say, how, if you missed the show. After the match, Tamina went to go confront Nia Jax, and as she confronted her, they was pushing a little bit, pushing, shoving, and he pushed, I think she shoved Ember Moon down, or she kicked her. After that, I was like, oh boy, here we go. She proceeded to act like she was eliminating Nia Jax. And then her and Ember Moon, and Ember Moon ganged up on Nia Jax to try to throw her over the top rope. And as they were doing that, here comes Dana Brooke. No, they got her over the top rope. Then Ember Moon went to eliminate Tamina, but she was struggling. And then here comes Dana Brooke eliminating both of them. the thing sucked because you act like we don't know the rules to a battle royal. You act like we never seen a battle royal before. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I don't know whose idea that was. You had something gold and you had gold and you turned it into crap. So and sugar in the easily. So that's the tapped out this week. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break, and then we'll come back. I'm going to talk a little Impact Wrestling really quick, and some more other wrestling before I go into From the Realm.
This is Glenn Thomas with the Wrestling Marks of Excellence, and you're listening to Break It Down with Brian H. Waters, brought to you by the Wrestling Realm.
And I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. That was my brother Glenn Thomas of the Wrestling Marks of Excellence. Make sure you check his show out each and every week. Also, make sure you subscribe to Fox Sports 1340's YouTube channel, where on there you'll catch Glenn's Monday Night Raw recap and review. So, Impact. Is it a work or is it a shoot? What it is stupid, regardless of what. So we saw Austin Aries take on Johnny Impact for the Impact World's Championship. Johnny Impact became the new champion. After he won the title, Austin Aries got up, no sold the Starship Pain, meaning he took the 1, 2, 3, but then he rolled up and got up like, he was getting out of bed in the morning, and he proceeded to give Don Callis the middle finger. After he did that, they had a press conference, and he said a few things, talked about how Johnny and his wife talked bad about him, and then that led to a brawl. And I'm sitting there like, okay, is this a shoot or what? Either way, it was bad. Who cares? Like, stop trying to blur the lines. Stop trying to be like WWE. I would respect. It's like every time they take a few steps forward, they take that step back. So, didn't enjoy that at all. Like I said, I absolutely thought it was absolutely stupid. Didn't get a chance to watch the rest of the show. I just saw some highlights. Saw some GIFs, actually. It really looked pretty cool. There was, Willie Mack debuted, which him and Rich Swann was in the opening bout. From what I've heard, like just listening to, I think I was listening to Smart to Death podcast, they said that was the match of the night. That was a tag match. There was a spot where Rich Swann was getting a Hurricane Rana. Then as he was going for the round, he dropped his legs with somebody else. It's a cool GIF out there. Probably tweet it and make sure you check it out. So that was a cool match. Also, this week I saw Willie Mack taking on Cody Rhodes for the NWA World's title. Great match between the two. Cody Rhodes, of course, won. Nothing to sit up there and say, oh, you got to watch this. But, it was just a good, solid wrestling match. One that I really enjoyed. Also caught up on some MLW this week. Seeing Brian Pillman, Brian Pillman Jr. taking on one of their jobbers. Still waiting for him to really find himself. The charisma's there. I just feel like once he really finds his character and who he wants to be, he's going to be a major player. He's got tons of potential. And the main event was it? Oh my goodness. I want to say ACH. No, Rich Swann and Teddy Hart. Yeah, Rich Swann and Teddy Hart. Teddy Hart winning. Another solid match. So I know we have coming up, it's Tom Lawler taking on Shane Strickland, who's the ace of MLW. Wouldn't be surprised if Tom Lawler won. I see him becoming the face of the company. I see Shane Strickland eventually moving on to bigger and better things, if you get my drift. So now, Japan Pro Wrestling. Have you been paying attention to tweets? You see Tama Tongo in there pretty much telling members of the Bullet Club, congratulations, good luck in WWE, or go off to WWE, bye, telling people stuff like that. So who knows what's going on? I just think that dude's very entertaining. Obviously, I watch his wrestling matches. I haven't paid that much attention to the product, so I'm always asking, like, okay, can this guy be a world champion? And this, and the other. Like I said, I enjoy him. I enjoy his charisma. I enjoy his promos, his backstage stuff, and the Gorillas of Destiny, man. Their music be rocking. So it's time to come From the Realm.
And now for our From the Realm segment,
where I answer your questions from the Facebook fan page, the Facebook group page, and the Twitter at Wrestling Realm. All right, from the Realm this week. So, first question is from Octavio Martinez Jr. His question is, have you noticed the World Cup has nothing but American participants? Why would you call it a World Cup tournament if you have I guess he said no non-U.S. wrestlers a part of it, with the exception of being Shinsuke and Rey Mysterio on SmackDown 1000. Could be WWE's way of trolling. Could be their way of saying, hey, this is our tournament. We feel like we got the best in the world. I know they call it World Cup, but then they classify as best in the world. So I don't know. I probably would have found something else to call it, but maybe that's what they had to call it. I'm convinced that they don't have a lot of decisions. They just have a lot of demands / must-haves on this pay-per-view. So I don't have that much of a problem with it. I understand why people do, but I don't have a problem with it. I don't know why you would call it that, though. Moving on. Next question comes from The Shark, and he has two questions. First, and I'm glad he asked this question because I'm going to get really into this. It seems like even though the Universal title is on Raw every week, doesn't feel like anything has changed. What went wrong? How do you fix it? My thing is, Baron Corbin messed this up. So I was sitting there thinking, and I was like, man, I wanted Roman to have the title for so long, and this is what I get. And it's very annoying. One, to fix it is you get rid of Corbin, sit him down, and then you just let Roman defend the title. Not every week, obviously, but have people coming after him. Remind people he is the champion. And, not just when he come out there and just hold the title up, but, make it something. Have number one contender matches. They don't even have that. Right now, there should be a number one contender match. So who's next in line after Crown Jewel? Who's getting the title? Whether it's Roman, whether it's Braun, whether it's Brock. That's the way you got to sell that. So that's how I fix it. We know who Roman is. But let's establish him as the champion, as the guy, and that's where they have a problem on. Will the Dogs of War be done before this year ends? So obviously Shark wrote that question during the show, and I believe because he says I'm over them, and I know right now he is happy. Make sure you check out his show, The Shark Attack, so you can get his thoughts on it. I can't wait to hear what the Shark has to say this week. So moving on, let's move on to the last question. Last question is from The Real Emmett B on Twitter. Shout out to him. Just subscribe to the Wrestling Realm YouTube. So we're over 600 subscribers. So if you're out there, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're here, like and subscribe and check out all our other content. His question is, will there be a double turn with the Shield? Particularly Roman and Seth turning heel against Ambrose. I wouldn't mind seeing that. It would be something different. I'll put it like this. I'm not going to say I'm rooting for it, but I wouldn't hate it. I think it's obvious that that Ambrose is trying to position himself as nobody cares about him. But I think if they did this in a way, it would be interesting and it would be different. But I don't know if he could pull it off. I don't know if he could pull off that Stone Cold Steve Austin type heel. Would people relate to him? Shout out to the real Dwayne Allen. One of the things he said, we both was working together at a job, and he said, now I understand why Stone Cold Steve Austin was giving out stunners. And at first I was like, and then it dawned on me, like, wow, that's why, And when I was 12 and 13 watching the Attitude Era, and they would say, oh, you guys go out there, you hate your jobs, you hate your bosses. I didn't understand what that meant. I mean, I thought at the time, well, if you don't like a job, you go get another one. As far as I was concerned, my mother did daycare in the home, so she liked her job for the most part. My dad drove a truck, and as I got older, I heard him. But back then, I never heard him complain or say, man, I can't stand my job, can't stand my boss. So, I just knew that as a child, Stone Cold Steve Austin bucked authority, so we equivocated that with bucking authority against teachers in school. So, but then as I got older, I did. I don't know if Dean Ambrose could do that. Is he going to really buck the system? You know, because clearly if he's bucking against the Shield, he's not going to be bucking against Baron Corbin, unless the Shield would be with Baron Corbin. So I don't know. I don't think we'll see that. I think they'll be together for a while. But then again, you never know. I mean, we had the Dogs of War versus the Shield advertised for house shows in December, and clearly that's probably not going to happen. They always have that subject line, card subject to change. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap things up right here. Make sure you check out the Wrestling Realm on the Twitter. Make sure you check out this week's Wrestling for the Culture. One of the highlights this week, Miss Jasmine becoming a new ECWA Pro Wrestling Women's Champion. So that, along with some other cool things, make sure you subscribe to us right here, whether you're on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, or YouTube, or Podbean. So until the next time, folks, I'm Brian H. Waters. So long, everybody.